the truth of the matter, and you said it so well, Dr. Vibe, there are countless Black, African/Caribbean students, international students who are here in our cities who are struggling.
It's hard to know because we don't have like the data to say what is the state of Black health before and after. And that's something that we've been advocating for, right? We need better race-based data that's done in a way that serves us, because race-based data has been collected on different groups in ways that actually cause harm, but we need it to be done with us in a way that serves us.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team since 2020, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. So I always like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We are broadcasting live on August 18th from Toronto, but globally all around the place, and looking forward to another epic conversation. We call it Black Canada Talking on Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. where Black Canadians, especially one in particular, Black Canadians give their points, POVs, and takes about stories locally, globally, nationally, internationally, whatever it is, around the block, no problem. As always, we are very happy and blessed to have Cesar Ndema-Moussa on the line today. What is up, Cesar?
Hello, Dr. Vibe. Hi, everybody. Thank you always for having me.
Oh, pleasure.
Good.
Pleasure.
We are good. Thanks to the ancestors, the family as well.
Cool.
Unfortunately, summer is already ending. It always goes so fast.
So fast. But I tell you, have you had a highlight this summer?
Oh, to be honest, last summer was rather rocky. So I'm glad I was able to be at home and see, my growing child, of course. But I think, how can I put it? We like to really speak of our summers too often. I mean, those privileged for it in terms of trips and all that, trips and the amazing things you do. We tend to forget to appreciate the fact that we can just be alive another day to enjoy with the people who love us, who support us, will give us constructive criticism, and, to be able to catch up on things. Because, at the beginning of the summer, people talk about how hard it is, and then Canadian reality, people are talking about how cold it is, right? So, really just glad. What could I say? It was great in terms of all the football that was on TV, from Champions League to the Euro Cup, and then of course after that you had the Olympics. But no, really, it's just the fact of being alive, and I say this particularly as a day at a time, week, month at a time, a year at a time. Those of us who are privileged to live a little bit longer, unfortunately, are coming to bury more and more friends, more and more relatives.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah, the time is passing us by.
Indeed. And, I don't like the expression my thoughts and prayers, because to me it's pretty empty. But may the ancestors be with the souls of all those who have departed us. I have friends who have passed, just as relatives, spouses of friends who have passed, notably this summer. So as you asked me how was my summer, truly it's a little reflection. We tend to forget to mention this. We tend to forget the mental health, the plight, the grieving process. And we tend to forget how can I put it? The celebration of life that we don't do when people are alive, but we try to do once they're dead.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioning that, because I've mentioned periodically throughout my conversations a number of years ago, I met a gentleman named, why am I forgetting his name? Now I forgot his name. I had it on the tip of my tongue and I forgot, but Robert Leon. Got it. And when he first met me, he introduced me to something called a living eulogy.
Okay.
And I said, Robert, that doesn't make sense. Living eulogy. It's like an oxymoron. But he said to me, Dr. Vibe, isn't it interesting? A lot of times people don't say the best of what they have to say to a person until it comes to their eulogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just said, so we need to give people flowers while they're here.
They're here. Yeah. No, totally agree.
And before we get into our main topics, another conversation piece that came up over the last week that I'd like to get your perspective. There was a recent survey done by a Toronto organization saying the amount of depression millennials are going through. And I know that you, Ketcha Peters, do a lot of heart work with our young people. Is that something you are seeing, increased amounts of depression, anxiety, mental health challenges?
So that's a very interesting topic, to which I will, how can I put it? I will share. I am a director on the board of the Ottawa Distress Center and the region, DCOR. And as such, I can absolutely confirm, indeed, depression, anxiety. So when people think of mental health, too often we think of the big names, bipolarity, schizophrenia, but and I don't want to speak too deeply as I am not a clinician, but anxiety and depression are very real. We tend to forget as real as it can lead to cardiovascular issues, aka strokes, even heart attacks, just as it can lead to suicide. We must not minimize it. And when we look notably in terms of our young people and also older people, adults, it's really, this is of course my perception, it's really too extreme, too polarized extremes where a society that constantly titillate your senses, you're supposed to have fun, let's celebrate youth, you're supposed to be beautiful, body positivity, absolutely, I think it's a great thing. Of course, as so many things, it comes with a certain performance, certain fakeness, what I call often people wearing masks, people pretending to be happy. This is deeper than, example, in the Black context, code switching, where in the presence of white/slash non-blacks or at work, you switch your language. This is really kind of a permanent mask that some people feel they have to wear constantly in order to survive every day, including with the family and friends. That's why sometimes, someone commits suicide, including a youth, and you hear so many people talk about, wow, she was such a great person. I knew she was going through something, but I didn't know it was that deep. So it has indeed worsened because the demands of society, the type of culture of entertainment, the culture of not consumption, consumerism. It's kind of like that notion, and really touching a topic where we can find in too many homes, people don't have savings, but they have a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and this is a reflection of the society. It's not the big screen TV, it's the priorities and also the valuation that people put on their own life in reflection to the society and the time and space and culture in which they live in. And as such, what it does is that it creates a lot of, depression, anxiety, but truly we're talking about complexes. We're talking about, for many who beat on the chest, kind of, I'm superior, I'm all this and that. The paramount example being someone like Donald Trump, actually hiding a facade which is the complete, or too often the complete opposite. So many that we see thriving and we think are doing so well, whether it be the business or professional world and the community world, we discover a scandal, we discover something, we discover someone was made to feel, and please, we never forget accountability, but we cannot look at accountability without looking at the society and the environment that creates the people in question. So the very pressures of society that makes it that, there is I forget the name of who said this, but it is a sign of a pathology to become adapted to a sick society. And in many ways, of course, I'm not saying that each and every person is sick. That's not what I'm saying. But truthfully, when we look at society, the exceptions doing truly well, I didn't say doing well, doing truly well, truly balancing challenges, expectations, and successes just as far as the exception only confirm the norm. A perfect reminder is how so many people live check by paycheck. A perfect example is how many people, so this is part of EDI, equity work. When we talk about intersectionality, how many people can truly and honestly say they can call on X, Y, and Z if they have an urgent situation where, to give a very concrete example, they need $100? Like, not I'm going to give it to you today or tomorrow. No, I need it right now, no questions asked. What about 500? What about 1,000? What about if there's an injury or a legal situation, etc.? The financial aspect, but the reality is, how many people actually have someone that they can call to say, I'm not feeling well? Can you help me? Can you listen to me?
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Good warm up for our conversation. Before we go any further, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. We've blown past finally 1,500 subscribers, and we're almost halfway on to 1,600 subscribers. They're like 100. We already got 50 more subscribers. Keep it on. Keep it on. Also, follow Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I broadcast on, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, check out Indie Soup Media, an independent content creators platform powered by our friend Dr. Tatch out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Has almost 40 content creators, independent content creators on that platform. And within 6 months now have 17,000 YouTube subscribers. And this is one of the content you will see on that platform. And finally, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, there is his email address, president at rootsandculturecanada.com, and Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. Now, our first conversation topic. We were chatting before we went live, and I was telling Cesar about he said, how are things going? And I said, fine, family's good, etc. But I said, we're getting monsooned on in Toronto. Yesterday, we had about the Toronto airport recorded the heaviest one-day rainfall yesterday. Over 4 inches of rain fell. And it wasn't 4 inches at one time, but it was bursts of rain. We're expecting some more rain this afternoon. So going out of this weekend, Toronto will have received over 4 inches of rain from Friday night. And we're broadcasting this late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening, and still more to come. So Cesar said, let's talk about the inequalities of global warming. So Cesar, take it away.
First and foremost, last I heard on the news is that no one had died, and let's hope it stays that way for Southern Ontario and the Toronto greater area. But let us remember that every year but there is a growing number of climate-related catastrophes. And when you speak about monsoon in Southeast Asia, hundreds of people, if I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of people die every year or nearly every year due to such. As a Pan-Africanist, I've said this years ago. I remember, I think the first time I said this was in 2017 during a conference in which I said, in Montreal, the Pan-Africanism of the future, Black consciousness of the future, cannot move forth without more and more speaking about the environment. more and more speaking about global warming, climate change, from denouncing uh, the fact that so many companies, corporations had an interest in the denial of global warming. And unfortunately, we still hear people today will try to deny global warming. And yet, even Western institutions that one could think would have an interest in global warming, such as the IMF, the World Bank, etc., even those institutions are coming to recognize that not only global warming is a fact, and let's be honest here from the start, we are not talking in terms of global warming in terms of natural cycles of the earth. We're talking about the Holocene provoked global warming. Holocene, aka human stage of earth evolution, the Holocene age in which we live in, aka humans, at the top of the species, if you want to put it that way. But the fact that humans are very much the ones driving global warming, and this is why we have notably international conferences such as, I believe, this year COP24, which is the global conference on climate change and the environment, to notably address the rise of temperature, whether it be by 0.5 or 1 to 2 degrees. If I'm not mistaken, July has been the hottest month recorded since they record temperatures mid to end of the 19th century. So when we talk about the inequalities of global warming, we have to really be clear. People in the so-called global south, and I'm saying so-called because, I mean, China is in the south, but and Russia likes to pretend it's part of the global south, but it's quite up north. But people of the global south, and you understand where I'm going, Africa, the Caribbean, um, Brazil, are the ones who will be most affected. I did mention Southeast Asia, and they will be more affected. When we do have the rains that we have, such as in Toronto this weekend, we must not forget. I mean, I don't like him today. I'm not a fan of him today, but I think it was 30 years ago. He said something about George Bush not liking Black West. Katrina, the flooding of Katrina, the tsunami. I can't remember if it was a tsunami, but basically, what Katrina really exposed is the further vulnerability of minorities, disenfranchised people, Black people, poor white people, immigrants and minorities. And when we look at the trend of issues regarding global warming, the truth of the matter is this: it's not just a matter of catastrophes over there
Yeah.
and people dying, such as in Eastern Africa when they had, yes, the monsoon, but also we can add such things as earthquakes and stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's also the driving of immigration, aka climate refugees, and the notion of integration, but even um, the opening of minds. When we hear someone such as, and we're going to talk about him at the end,
Yeah.
um, 45, aka Trump, his rhetoric on immigrants. Well, nobody likes to leave their own country out of their own free will. What climate change is doing, it's impacting more poor countries, countries of the South, people who are poor, women and children. And as such, it will also have an impact on immigration. Climate refugees are something very real. You have some islands of the Pacific that are basically, I can't remember, why am I thinking of, uh, mistaken, someone can verify this, Fiji or Tahiti, but there are some Pacific islands that are borderline condemned already. Last year, the fire in Hawaii, yes, it's a fire, but when you add the amount of fire, the smoke, it's kind of like what happened last year in was it Alberta and Yukon, the fires that spread so much that all the way to New York and
Yes.
Chicago, the sky was red and the smoke could be the air quality went down. So yeah,
Wow. Thank you for that full analysis. Yeah, it just seems that it's becoming more and more of a challenge because it's hot everywhere these days, man. It's
it's
hot.
hot and hotter. Yeah, hot and hotter, and we're not talking here because you see, I didn't go in details, but when from an EDI lens, you look at the intersectionality of this. You also look, I address the intersection determinants of how the environment will play a big factor in terms of people's healthcare, in terms of people access to quality healthcare, in terms of even how do you call the organ sanity of people. So I give an example. This is not related to climate change, but it had an impact on climate change. 1986 Chernobyl and the impact that it can have on the air quality, the environment, and decades later, the mutations that can come up on humans, but also animals and plants and vegetation. We have to be, I'd like to invite our people, Black people, and allies from all over the world to start to pay a little bit more attention to uh, environmental news. It's not just an out of the ordinary rain where over a weekend you can have the normal expected rains of a month or for 3 months. It's, as you said, it keeps happening more and more, and it will be happening more and more severely. What are politicians doing? But also, what are people willing to do to
Mm-mm.
help to curb the trend?
Good points. Good points. Yeah, global warming. You don't hear anyone pushing back on it this much anymore, right?
It becomes a little bit harder to do, but the problem is also why did it have to take so long? It's kind of like, I mean, people have interest. We are not naive. It's like, smoking kills, and yet you had tobacco companies paying off scientists to deny it. Meanwhile, it was known that it kills. They knew it themselves. They didn't let the children smoke, but they were pushing the product. So it's, unfortunately, the very human nature that pushes on interest and self profits until it becomes almost too late to try to turn back the clock. We don't have a second planet. We don't have uh, really an opportunity to have millions of people moving up north. And I'm saying moving up north, the Arctic is melting, which will cause a rise in sea level. It's already predicted that, what's the name? New York City is basically drowning. Yes, the building and the skyscrapers, yes, but if you're drowning and the sea level is expected to rise, if you're drowning and the sea level is expected to rise, what seemed like a movie a few years ago becomes reality.
Reality. Yep.
And the perfect example is Katrina.
Yep. Perfect example. Perfect. And the areas affected, especially people look like us, are still feeling the backlash of it.
I, this is just like the conversation we had regarding COVID. Blacks and minorities, disenfranchised people, poor people were the most disproportionately affected. This is not to say uh, richer, white people didn't get affected, but they didn't get.
Okay. All right. Well, Cesar has warmed it up with an appetizer and a main course of inequalities and global warming. When we come back, and Cesar and I usually would communicate the day before the morning of a conversation, and he always comes up with good conversation topics. But this next one, in Canada, as a national country, hasn't been talked about for a long time. Cesar has a reason why the conversation with this upcoming topic should be front of mind as usual. So we'll be back in 30 seconds with more of Black Canada Talking with myself, Dr. Vibe, and Cesar Ndema-Moussa. Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. Join Aisha K. Staggers and Laura Lala Key as they cut through the chaos and make some sense of the nonsense in American news and politics.
Where is your getting out there and doing everything that needs to be done to get this man in office? Because I don't see it.
Sharp insights, bold opinions, and a touch of humor. It's the show that keeps you informed and entertained.
Only when it fits their benefit.
Exactly.
Don't miss Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. Tune in and stay ahead of the headlines. All right, Primetime Saturday evenings with Aisha and Lala. And actually, should I save it for now or ask Cesar? Should I ask him now? You know what? No, I'll save it for the next segment. I've got something to ask him to see if he's going to participate in, see if he's available. But I have a feeling he will if he's available, be right up his sleeve. But let's go to our next conversation topic. Canada's French language and its impact on newcomers, students, and elections. Cesar, you caught me out of the blue on this one. So I need to know, why did you want to bring this one to the front today?
Well, this is an important topic for people in Canada. And I don't want people to think, because they read French language and automatically they think Quebec. No, the province of Quebec. That's not it at all. This is literally, this came out maybe 2 days ago, because I'm going to share it tomorrow to senior leaders across the province. This came out, I believe, on Friday or Thursday from the government. And I think, I can't remember the name of the minister. I really am sorry about that. But Canada has basically taken on the incentive to ease the coming to Canada of French language speaking students and their families, in order to, how can I put it, to maintain the nature of what Canada is as a bilingual country. This is part of an effort to literally keep French language going, because majority of newcomers who come to Canada are Anglophone speaking.
Yep.
So easing the path for these newcomers will come from specific countries. This is not from anywhere in the world. They have to come from I believe in English we say, well, the Francophonie, the organization basically of the International Organization of Francophonie, so French-speaking countries that are members. So when I say members, you look at, for example, Northern Africa, people will come from Tunisia and Egypt are eligible, but not people from Algeria, because Algeria is not a member of the organization, of the International Organization of Francophonie. So this is an important conversation, because it also aims at bringing back or renewing life, if I can put it that way, in small cities such as in Ontario, Cornwall. So Cornwall, where I have an office, has seen a boost of Francophone, not French, but Francophone Africans, notably from my birth country of Cameroon, an influx to basically bring dynamism and, of course, bring up the birth rate. Because just as every other Western country, there is a matter of birth rate issue, in brackets, in the white population, truly. And this also to address another topic, which is the labor force. The labor force, notably in terms of, manual labor / blue collar work / entry-level type of work / agriculture / serving / hotels, etc. But of course comes the questions of integration and notably elections. In a Canada where, looking at statistics, there is a potential blue wave by Mr. Pierre Poilievre and the conservative, who are not the most open to immigration. We can argue, we can disagree on the numbers of newcomers that the Trudeau government wants to bring into Canada. The number, if I recall, was up to 500,000, uh, in that ballpark figure a year. Uh, I'm probably exaggerating because 500,000, but I mean, uh, uh, basically, what conservative would deem too much. And as such, when we look at this question regarding French language newcomers, it's not just in terms of Quebec, the province of Quebec wanting to have its own word, official French province. So Quebec is the official French province. New Brunswick is the official bilingual province. People tend to think, but Ontario technically is not a bilingual province. Ontario has Ottawa, which is a bilingual city, but the province itself, and I hope I'm not misleading anyone, or I hope I'm not wrong here, you are expected, you can expect, no, you are entitled to ask for French services, but there is no guarantee that you will be served in French. It's French services if available, and if possible. And you have basically initiatives like this where um, even even in Nova Scotia boosting French, the French School Council, Alberta, even some part of Alberta, Manitoba making efforts in terms of, you know, being more welcoming to its French population. I did say some parts because Alberta as a whole is not exactly your bilingual seeking province. So yeah, this is it's a bigger conversation than people realize, especially if living in the eastern part of Canada, and it's one that will affect a lot of people. It may seem like just a conversation, but as I gave the example of Cornwall, an influx of hundreds of newcomers can change the landscape of the city, of the community, and we can only imagine that if we don't do uh, a job of education,
Mm-hmm.
you see, upon the majority white population, but also on other minorities, the integration can fail, and even issues that happen abroad. So one can easily see me talk coming with the issue of notably Israel and Palestine, but even Russia and Ukraine. If we don't do a better job at integrating our newcomers, we can have domestic issues that are actually happening overseas. Another example, I said Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, but we can even think about what happened in British Columbia when this Sikh SIKH activist for the land of Khalistan, Mr. Nijar, got assassinated. Is said to be representatives of the Indian government. So we need, it's part of a larger conversation regarding integration of newcomers. Yes, here focus on French language, but truly of all newcomers, if we are to have truly a multicultural Canada, but a multicultural Canada that is not only safe, but that allows for people of all backgrounds to thrive and succeed.
Excellent. In regards to this subject, why do you feel the government is, and maybe you shared it, but they're raising quotas or where their numbers of people to come in? And the second part of that question, what majority of them look like us?
Well, it's not so much. So it's kind of a double-edged question in terms of it's not so much that majority look like us, but the truth of the matter, and you see this when he talked about when came to welcoming Haitian refugees, Congolese refugees, Ethiopian refugees, Afghan, Syrian, Yemeni refugees, they didn't get the same treatment as when it came to Ukrainian refugees. So there's that part, and the fact that, truthfully, uh, the birth rate issue in question mainly plaguing um, Western nations, but also a country such as China. Most of the world is becoming more and more brown to dark. And this really bothers and scares a lot of white supremacists because they have all this apprehension of revenge from history. But the vast majority of people coming to these nations, such as Canada, they're coming to create a better life for themselves and their children. Unlike a country such as France that sees a lot of domestic terrorism from newcomers who are badly integrated, but France does not recognize systemic racism. So right from the start, they're set for failure. If you can't recognize an issue, a problem, you're bound to fail at diagnosing the issues and finding the solutions. In Canada, we do recognize systemic racism, but part of that recognition must allow, I give an example, it's no normal that we can have a newcomer who was a doctor, a physician, or etc. position of education and service coming to Canada to find themselves be a taxi driver or a janitor, and yet we talk about how we are lacking doctors, notably in small towns. We are lacking teachers. They are here. The hypocrisy of the system maintains white supremacy and systemic racism instead of truly addressing and coping with the realities of the demand, but also the supply of what's coming. It's not normal that you someone like is there a difference in the human physique from one human being on the other side of the world versus this one here that a physician over there for too many, not all, for too many has to become a taxi driver, has to go back to school and pay so much. It is defeating. It is honestly defeating. And there are people, we must not forget this when we talk about immigration, there are people who become dissatisfied with Canada and will end up leaving.
Wow.
Oh yeah. There are people who, Canada is not this postal card that they like to paint. And when I say postal card, immigrants don't come here with knowledge of indigenous realities. So many black people, notably Africans and Caribbeans, come to Canada thinking this is some type of racial paradise, from the images that they see of Canada, and then to realize the brutality of the deception of Canadian racism. I'm saying it this way in terms of course, Canada is not as racist as the USA, is not as racist as France, but Canadian polite racism with a smile is still brutal on far too many people, such as COVID illustrated, such as there are so many reports from police departments regarding the use of force and police brutality, such as statistics speak in all institutions regarding the plight of blacks and indigenous peoples.
Mm. This is so interesting. Do, um, do you think there's still a case for keeping Canada a bilingual country federally?
Yes. Yes, you really need to because actually you need to even more than in 2024, even more than 70 years ago or 1948 with the United Nations, 1948, 1945 with the United Nations, because the African population boom will see a growth of the number of francophones. And FYI, France is no longer the number one country of French speakers. It is Congo, Congo, former Zaire.
Mm-hmm.
Canada, from a strategic lens that wants to be a player on the world stage, has everything to gain from being able to sit at tables of Anglo-Saxons, such as the table of the Five Eyes from a geopolitical, military, and intelligence lens, aka the Five Eyes, USA, England, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, um, but also to be there at the table where of francophonie, France, Belgium, Switzerland, so many African countries, but also uh, um, countries that are affiliated worldwide. It becomes a strategic partnership, and at the same time, there are millions of francophones here in Canada. It becomes a problem if to be French, you feel like you can only live in Quebec.
Hmm.
It becomes fundamentally a problem because then you no longer have a democratic country. You end up having a borderline apartheid country. Uh, like I said, the rule of Ontario should be the rule across the nation where you can ask for French services and rationally expect to be able to receive them. It's the same way as an Anglophone should be able to be served in English, not just in Montreal, because yes, in Montreal, you will be served in English. That's not a problem. But what about Chicoutimi, Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Mauricie, and Beauce, regions of Quebec, notably regions that are more rural? Well, isn't this part of Canada? Aren't the two official languages French and English? Imagine being, as you, Dr. Vibe, imagine you on a road trip, you have a flat tire or you have an accident, they bring you to the hospital, and there's not a single hospital staff that speaks English.
Hmm.
I mean, we know as Black people, it's already a lot to hope there is a Black person in notably in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if in Canada you can't even be serviced in French or English. It becomes a problem from east to west and north to south, it becomes a problem. And if you look at it for the United States, more and more Spanish is growing. More and more Spanish is truly the second language of the United States, and in some parts, it is the number one language.
Wow.
So this conversation, and I'll give you another point. Most people don't know this. So um, in Europe, with the European Union, there is a program, Erasmus, of student exchange. But part of that program also involves language learning.
Right.
Now, the United Kingdom has left um, the European Union.
Yes.
They're still
Yep.
part of Europe. This was the Brexit.
Correct.
They're still part of Europe, the continent,
Yep.
but they left the political union, aka the EU.
Yes.
However, look at this interesting thing. Not only is that causing problems within, where there is a strong independence movement for Scotland, because
Yes.
before the British went to colonize the world, they actually colonized their neighbors on the island. Most people don't know this. So Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, so people can think about the IRA, the Irish
Republican Army.
Republican Army.
Yes,
and the
I haven't heard that term and that organization in a long time.
Well, Sinn Féin,
Sinn Féin, yes.
basically the renewed name,
Yes.
has integrated the government, not necessarily part of the government, but the parliament, I should say, in terms of peaceful, like basically stopping the civil war. But one of the things that happen in Great Britain, most people don't know this, they have conversations going on right now about the importance of still teaching German in the schools. Do you know why? Contrary to opinion, contrary to what most people think, the number one language in Europe is actually German.
You're kidding me.
Yes, yes. The number one language, well, German is the number one economic power in
That's
Europe.
true. Agreed. Makes sense. Makes sense.
And if you look at the map, think about the map. Look at the center of Europe. From once you get past France and Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
in Switzerland, they speak German,
Yep.
Austria.
Yep.
So it's not so much German per se, but Germanic languages. So Germanic languages actually, like those family Dutch, etc. Those family of languages are the number one languages. English is the number one international language in terms of commerce and culture, but the languages that people speak among one another, and then you have French as a language, like national language. English is only spoken in England, in England and Ireland, but truly, even when you look at Great Britain, Wales has their own language. It's Welsh. It's not English. You see, so there is an entire dynamic. There are dynamics to language and a lot of ramifications to which, in a changing world as we live in, quickly changing world, when we look at demographics, when we look at the issues of employment, when we look at the growing artificial intelligence and the impact it will have on the job market, the labor force. It's not a simple matter of bringing in X amount of people and expect them to work in, let's say, agriculture or the service industry, hospitality industry. It's also a matter of providing services to cater to them, for them to either stay or to come back. Kind of like tourists, you know?
Yeah.
You can't claim you want tourists, but you won't provide services to cater to them. It won't work.
Coming back to the original conversation piece of the French language and the impact, you had said that there seems to be a favoring of more new Canadians coming in from French countries. Do you feel there'll be favoritism of French new Canadians that don't look like us compared to look like us coming in from new countries?
Well, I would say technically yes. If you look at the bias that can come from uh, public servants, here we can think about the Black Action lawsuit that truly speaks to systemic racism in the public sector.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is this: there are far less white immigrants from francophone countries that are coming to Canada. Now, it could absolutely change. When you look at the political situation in France with the rise of the far right, it can drive people to migrate, just as south of the border of the United States. If Donald Trump were to win on November 5, I am absolutely guaranteeing you that there will be people, notably white people, who will migrate out of the United States. There will be people who will migrate out. But in the reality of the world, and we're talking about large numbers. So I give you an example here. We've heard about thousands of people who die crossing the Mediterranean Sea from Africa to go to Europe.
Yep.
What we have heard less of is that since 2007, 2008, with the housing bubble and the stock market, etc., crisis, the financial crisis, there have been Europeans who have migrated out of Europe to go live in Africa. Notably, Portuguese will have. Absolutely. You see, you have to pay attention. And I mean, I'm not here to teach you this. You know media far more than I do. But
don't sell yourself short, brother. There's a lot of things you educate me on that, and us who watch, that we don't hear about. Like this thing about the French language. Like I said,
you thought it was a minor topic, huh?
Right? Like, but it is a major topic.
It is a major. People don't realize the extent to which it's a major topic. So let me give you an example here. As I was saying,
Yeah.
Let's exit the French language. We're going to talk about I know the term in French, lusophone. So French, francophones, anglophones. That's what we used to. When you speak about Germanic speaking people, we talk about germanophone, germanophones.
Right.
Lusophones are people who speak Portuguese. Uh, so what happened is this: yes, thousands of people will have left Africa to go to Europe, notably Southern Europe, Lampedusa, Italia, etc.
Yeah.
This last month during the Euro Cup, there's my God, perfect timing. There is a 16-year-old who shined, Lamine Yamal from Spain, 16-year-old young brother. Where did he come from? He actually comes from Africa. Mother was a migrant and blah blah blah. She made
Was
it to
this the
Spain.
gentleman from France who scored that goal?
It's a 60-year-old from Spain.
Yes, Spain. Yes,
Spain,
sorry, my question is Spain. Yes, I remember hearing about this. Yes.
so Spain had two. The hope. I mean, Spain has a bright future ahead of it, and that future notably has two young black brothers,
Yeah.
young black males, player Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. They are the children of refugees, but at the same time, so we're talking. Lamine Yamal is 16 years old. 2024 minus 16 brings us to what year? 2008. And there is a photo of him as a baby with a certain Lionel Messi.
Yes, I think I saw that.
Now, we're talking 2008. What also happened in that time period? There have been white Europeans who have left Europe because of the rising cost of life, and the cost of life has not gone down since 2008.
Right.
They have left Europe to go have a second life in the former colonies in Africa.
100%.
So,
Wow, you're weaving a nice thread here. Continue.
so here, notably Portuguese going to Luanda in Angola.
Okay.
They end up. What happens? They didn't just go to Angola. They also went to Brazil, etc. But they become a new privileged class as a caste. It's the same as we hear about, for example, the tragedy that's happening to Lebanon and the fear of, Hezbollah versus Israel conflict. So Canada telling Lebanese will hold a Canadian passport, leave. What a lot of people don't know is that there's a large Lebanese community that's very rich, very prosperous in Africa, notably in Cote d'Ivoire on the west coast. So one of the things that come is that when we have unchecked development, but also we don't pay attention to these trends, we always run the risk with not looking carefully at better integration and better dynamics, or creating new classes of privileged people, such as Portuguese whites who let's say the assets in the changing economics of Portugal brings them lower in social classes, but when they go to Angola or Angola and Mozambique, they get a boost. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, if we have failed integration, one of the things that ends up happening is that we have people who come from Africa, the Caribbean, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia will come here and grow the impoverished numbers of people. And that becomes truly problematic because the real impact is less. The adults will just come from overseas. The real impact becomes the next generation or the children growing up with a sense of being otherized, of not being integrated, or not being accepted. And notably for us as Black people, it creates a problem. I remember when Somalis were coming to Canada in the 90s. I was a teenager. They weren't exactly, for most of them, welcomed and integrated into the Black community.
No, they weren't.
Exactly. that becomes a problem.
Wow.
And you see that problem very easily. Look at the statistics of imprisonment of Black people's origins in Canada.
Wow.
Disproportionate number levels of what? You have four main communities, four main Black communities in Canadian jails. Do you know what those four are?
I'll let you give the rundown.
Jamaican, Haitian, Congolese, and Somali. Look at the situation back home.
Wow. Wow. This is why we have Cesar here. He took this and he just gave a whole global perspective on a Canadian-based story. That is huge.
Well, I'll give a last example. And notably for you, Dr. Vibe, as you are in the Toronto area, many people may not realize this, but the Canadian Sikh community, SIKH,
Yes.
is very well integrated here. If you drive like me often on the highway, look at the truckers. You will notice many of them are
Yes.
Sikh.
Yes, absolutely. Known that for a long time.
There you go. So we have a successful and thriving Sikh community in Canada. Check in India. The Sikh community is a marginalized community. So what happened between India and Canada? If a government and communities truly want to make efforts to uplift a community, it can happen. Now, this is not a matter of just pointing at other communities and looking at ourselves in false victimization. Yes, we can be victims, but we must never forget accountability. In terms of African communities, people from Rwanda tend to do far better. And yet, 30 years ago, they went through a genocide. So there has to be incentives from government and communities, not just to welcome, but to do a better job of integration to avoid growing the underbelly of the marginalized and the consequences it would have on the children becoming adults and the next generation. One of the things that here, living in Ottawa, I've noticed, notably working in the community as a community leader and following my father's work as an immigration lawyer, I've seen a growth of double victimization in children. Very often, children who are mixed, but a certain type of mixed, half Sudanese, half indigenous. And more of children will basically comes from two marginalized population, an African marginalized population, indigenous, but then you add poverty, you add mental health, you add lack of resources, etc., etc. But ultimately, Canada can't claim to want to uplift newcomers and not truly uplift indigenous people who were here first.
Yeah, there's that's a whole other conversation there. That is a whole. If we ever can find some people, that'd be a nice digital roundtable conversation. That is very, very good. All right, before we got to give Cesar a break because he went in deep on that one. So we're going to take another break, and then when we come back, we're going to have Cesar take a short break. We're going to talk about the upcoming Democratic National Convention, which starts, if you're watching this live on or are watching it on Sunday, August 18th, 2024, starts tomorrow night in Chicago. So we're going to get Cesar's perspective in 30 seconds. Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. Join Aisha K. Staggers and Laura Lala Key as they cut through the chaos and make some sense of the nonsense in American news and politics.
That's not a big enough sample to even say that this is representative of anything.
Sharp insights, bold opinions, and a touch of humor. It's the show that keeps you informed and entertained.
Those polls have you thinking, oh, I don't need to go there.
Don't miss Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. Tune in and stay ahead of the headlines. All right, we are back in our final conversation piece. Before we get to that, again, just want to remind people, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, email address, president@rootsandculturecanada.com, and Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. And again, on most of the platforms you're watching this on replay, the contact information is there in the comment section. So, final up this week, Democratic National Convention, Chicago. What does Cesar have to say?
I think it's something that I will be watching from. I will be at the hotel. I'm going to be gone for a few days, and I think that we kind of look at this Democratic National Convention as like a Star Wars movie. The Empire Strikes Back, and then the Return of the Jedi, aka the Return of Hope. This is pretty much what Kamala Harris symbolizes. I remember 2008 when, as part of the international volunteers for the Obama campaign, it was really a campaign claiming to be about hope and change. And, you know, the situation has to be really bad for looking at a black leader to bring in hope, change, and in the case of Kamala Harris, joy. It has really, really turned the whole campaign on its head. And I know we've talked about Donald Trump and the US elections before, but you know, it was just a few weeks ago, people were convinced that Trump is going to win after surviving this assassination attempt. And yet, and you know, honestly, kudos to him, Joe Biden withdrawing from his own re-election, Kamala Harris coming in and really uplifting the democratic feelings regarding this emotion beyond the message of Joe Biden to save democracy, but truly kind of a referendum on Trump, but also a historic moment to elect the first black female president of the United States. If I can make this parallel, because I know I've made it, I did it with Obama. One of the things people have to understand, when Obama became president in 2008, for many people, notably African American, it was kind of like a prophecy, as it was 40 years after the assassination of Reverend Martin Luther King, our precious leader. 40 years because of thinking, you know, the Bible, the 40 years of Moses, aka fictional story, everybody. It's a fictional story, it didn't happen. But here, when Obama became president, I don't think people realize what it actually meant. And I can't remember if it was on the show, but I've explained it a few times. When Obama became president, and respect to the fact that he was president of the United States, he wasn't president of black people or president of Africa, we know. It had been 2008. It had been since the 6th century before our common era that a black man had not been seen and recognized as a primary global leader since the fall of Kemet at the hands of the Persian prince Cambyses, son of Cyrus, who is mentioned in the Bible, aka the liberator of the Jews out of Babylon. I'm not smoking anything, Dr. Vibe. You know me. That's really what it is. It had been 2,600 years. 525 BCE, if I remember the exact year, 525. 2008 to minus 525, basically 26 centuries since a black man had not been seen as a global leader. If Kamala Harris was to become and she truly can. And this is what scares someone like Trump. Trump doesn't care about losing the elections. It's not the elections that he cares about. Doesn't care about the fate of America, making America great again. Amazing campaign slogan for which so many are falling for. Trump is caring about his own interests, which strongly involve his own freedom. Because if he doesn't win the elections, those lawsuits, those trials are going to go through, and it's not just him. Many people can go to jail. But if Kamala Harris was to become president, it would be, I know the specific year, it would have been until much further, 900 years before even Obama, the last pharaoh, since the 15th century before our common era. So 35 centuries since a Black woman was seen as a global powerful leader. For our Black people who love history, for our Pan-Africanists, for our people who have Black consciousness true and alive, I am talking about the pharaoh queen named Hatshepsut in the 15th century before our common era. The aunt of El, and this is very important when I talk about Black consciousness, the aunt of arguably, I'm trying to put this mildly. So when white people talk about Alexander, Napoleon, and Hitler, the great conquerors, when Asians talk about Genghis Khan, when Arabs talk about Khalid, the army general who conquered so much land for the Rashidun Caliphate, Omar, I've seen this far too often in high schools, universities, and professional sectors. Black people don't know what to respond. They don't know the name of the greatest, and I'm not saying this in terms of praising military war and conquest, but inferiority complexes are greatly due to not knowing what to reply when the others are saying the great achievements of the people. Pharaoh Thutmose III, the Hatshepsut, was the aunt of Pharaoh Thutmose III, who is the Black leader, the pharaoh who conquered the most lands, arguably from Sudan / Ethiopia, Northern Africa, all the way to Iraq for sure. Some say all the way to India. All of that, from Turkey to Iraq, maybe India, Northern Africa, all the way down to Sudan. All of that was under the conquest of a Black man. So his aunt, the one who ruled before him, so there's a symbolic aspect to it, and I hope I didn't lose too many people here. There's a symbolic aspect to it, and it's beyond the matter of campaign for joy. It's beyond the campaign for, the soul of democracy. It's very much as in Obama, because people will look at the reflection of 2008 and 2024. Obama, Harris, two biracial mixed people who in this world are seen first and foremost as Black on the four corners of the world. I know there are some Black people who reject the fact that she's Black. I know there are some brothers who strongly reject the notion of supporting her because she's a woman. We have to be honest. But we must recognize the symbolic, historical aspect of it. If she wins, and I think she can win, I think she will win. I mean, she just has to let Trump be Trump. He's doing a pretty
well, I'm going to throw it in here. Right now, if someone asks me, I think Trump's going to win still. Because America's America.
America's America. In 2016,
yeah,
until the day of the elections, Analysts in media were saying Hillary Clinton, obviously Hillary Clinton. Even Trump was surprised that he won.
Yeah, right. But I will say a few things. There are going to be two key moments for her. This Thursday night, that speech that she's going to be making. Critical, because she's going to be on the big stage.
Yeah.
Critical.
And the debate September 10th?
And the debate, which leads into something I want to ask you. So we are planning, we'll talk. So anything else you're expecting out of the convention other than that? If not, we'll just get to our final comments. Anything else you want to say about the convention? I'm very actually interested to see Joe Biden's speeches tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Look, if anyone from the Kamala Harris organization hears this before Wednesday, because there won't be any value if they hear this on Thursday, I am going to come so off from my ordinary talk. Make sure, dear Kamala Harris organization, if you want to win, make sure, as I'm Cesar, and I am assuring you, from 2,000 years ago, the Romans understood the importance of entertainment, bread and games for the masses. If you want to ensure that you win, make sure that you sign a certain lady named Beyonce and another lady by the name of Taylor Swift. Because you're not signing them for them to come sing. Forget this other, and I mean, I know some black women will not like what I'm going to say. Megan Thee Stallion twerking, whatever. No. You have to. No, stop that. No, absolutely. Megan Thee Stallion twerking is like the Republican bringing Hulk Hogan to rip off his shirt.
Well, here's some updated stuff here now. 20. Okay, I'm just reading a story on the Tennessean. Okay, Beyonce clears freedom song for VP Harris. Yes. So, with the answer remains uncertain, here's what we know about each singer's political track record. There's a picture. There's a picture of Beyonce and Kamala Harris together. She's performed at Taylor Swift has supported Harris's VP before. There's time for to make DNC even with tour. So very astute observation, Cesar. Very
and I mean Taylor Swift is notably she's a Democrat. There was already talk about her performing for Joe Biden, but it's to bring them to the national stage. Like Hillary Clinton tried to do. Yeah, kind of like it's not for the musical or entertainment aspect.
For the women to come out and vote and support, because 45 has disenfranchised so a lot of and I'm not on any side here, but calling Kamala Harris the B word all the time, that's not a good look, baby.
And it's not just that. In that debate September 10, like she said, she knows how to deal with people like Trump. It's the prosecutor versus the felon. You need to remind this woman. This man has borderline raped a woman.
Well, but he's got to stay on topics. If he starts going off like that,
but he can't help it.
Well,
I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, Donald Trump is older than even my father.
He's the old man now. He's the old man now. 2 months ago, he was the young man. He's the old man now.
And I know is that the older you get, the harder it is to change. And when you've lived an entire life without being held to accountability, it is that much harder to change.
Facts. It's a good point.
And when you have a history of being unhinged, Notably, when you stress out, it becomes harder to change, especially when dealing with someone calm and composite who literally has nothing to lose.
It's his, he has everything to lose.
He has everything to lose.
Well,
Kamala Harris has everything to gain.
Well,
so this is kind of like.
Well, I think she may have something to lose because if trends continue, she's going to be still ahead on a lot of polls going into this. So I think it's been big for both of them, and I think, but again, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. I think the convention, though, this Thursday night is her first big moment because she's going to be on a national stage, basically.
Absolutely, but you see, Dr. Vibe, let me put it to you this way. They both have everything to gain, which is the White House.
True.
But in the case of a loss, Kamala Harris is not looking at the potential of finishing her life in jail.
True. And the funny thing is, he is to be sentenced in New York court on the 18th of September. So we will see. But I think this week will start ramping up the political viewing in the United States, and it'll be
President Felon.
Okay, we're done. All right, let's. So as we close out, we were mentioning about the upcoming debate on September 10th, and Cesar, I want to see, are you available on the evening of September 10th?
What day is that? I'm not sure.
Let me look in my calendar because I would like to invite you to something that it looks like we're going to be doing on the 10th of September. So let me just check this out on my phone at the moment. I think it's I'm not going to guess. Okay, let's see.
It's a Tuesday.
I thought it's a Tuesday night. We are going to be doing coverage of the debate online. So we'll have the debate on either in the background or we may even have it on here. And we'll be giving our commentary in real time on the debate. So far, coming in, Aisha, Lala, and Jill Jones is probably going to be here. Now we're looking for some international representation. One of the people who says he may be coming is Ryan Knight from ACBN. Would you be interested, if you're available, to join us during that evening?
Call it a date. I'll make it. I'm on a business trip.
Okay.
Do we know what time it starts? Just to make sure that
that's a really good question. Let me just
to have an idea.
Yeah, just a minute. I'm doing this live in real time. I said yes, because Cesar is a very positive, productive. I don't call him busy. He's a very positive, productive man. So I want to make sure. Because you can be busy and you just go, busy doing what? So he's a positive, productive man. 10th debate. And it's on ABC. I know that for sure. And I think one of the hosts is the same lady 45 was giving a hard time at.
Okay.
I think so. Let me just sit at it. Do we have a time yet? Do we have a time? It's a 90-minute debate, but they haven't given a start time. Start time. Let me just take a quick look. Start. Oh, come on, computer. My fingers, get it right. Start time. All right, and then we will get out of the conversation today. Okay. 9 p.m.
Okay.
9 p.m. Eastern.
I'll be home. That works.
All right. So you know what? We're going to start promoting this definitely by the end of the next week at the absolute latest. So we'll have Aisha K. Staggers, Laura Lala Key from Primetime Saturday, and Jill Jones, who periodically left the conversation a while back, but is slowly but surely getting involved in some conversations again. We'll have Cesar, and I'll see if I can get some other people to join the conversation. So Cesar, what's coming up in your world?
Not much, Dr. Vibe, traveling for work. A couple of business trip coming this week. So yeah, doing the good work and one day at a time.
Wonderful. So as always, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, email president@rootsandculturecanada.com, Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. That's the way we can get a hold in touch with him. So people, he'll be on September 10th, and we'll have a truly North American conversation, not just an American conversation, a North American conversation about the upcoming debate, which people say, well, why are you doing that? It's going to affect all of us, Canada and U.S. And there was just a recent poll done in Canada. More people want Ms. Harris to be president than 45. My friend,
we know that applies also to our prime minister.
Yes, well, that's a whole other conversation too. All right, sir. Thanks very much. Be well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody. Yeah, so there you go. September 10th. Get ready. Get ready. We're going to have a North American conversation in real time with the upcoming presidential debate. So as always, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Like Dr. Vibe on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Again, if you're up to it and you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show, especially on YouTube. Want to hit that 1,600 subscriber barrier. Also, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm on, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe@thedrbeshow.com. You can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and on the website, www.thedrbeshow.com. So this is how we close it out. And do it right here, right now. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. And I'm looking forward to September 10th. Are you?